Welcome to C-Section Support by OT and Motherhood, where you will learn all about C-sections, including practical tips to help you have a positive C-section birth and recovery. I'm Christy, occupational therapist and mum of two little ones born by C-section. I've discovered just how little information there is out there to support you after a C-section, and I'm passionate about making change. Knowledge is power. Let's cut out the overwhelm so you can enjoy your pregnancy and new baby. A little reminder that this podcast is for education purposes only. It does not replace individualised advice from your own healthcare team. Alright, let's get started. Hello, welcome to episode 2 of C-Section Support by OT and Motherhood podcast. Today, we are going to talk about something that I believe is one of the most important first things you should be taught in hospital after a C-section, and that is how to get out of bed. Something really simple can make a very big difference to your recovery. So we'll be covering the technique you can use, the best sleeping positions, the importance of rest, and alternative sleeping arrangements. First of all, how to get out of bed. Your first time out of bed in hospital is going to be a tough one. You'll receive some pain medication that will be timed approximately half an hour before you get out of bed, and you will get up for the first time with the nurses, so you'll have some assistance if you need it. It might be uncomfortable, but I promise it will get better. Make sure for the first couple of days at least, you are making use of the staff or your support person that's with you in the hospital to hand you your baby for feeding and things like that. This means you're not holding your baby when you're also getting out of bed. Now, I realise that describing this technique is a little bit tricky. Of course, it is going to be better to see it. So my aim is to make a video, and I will have it available on my Instagram at some point in the future that will show you this technique. But for now, I'm going to talk you through it. This technique is called the log roll technique. We start with you lying on your back. I want you to bend your knees up, and you're going to move your body like a log. Imagine your body is moving as one, so we don't want your upper body moving at different times to your lower body. Once your knees are up, I want you to turn to your side towards the edge of the bed. You can move your hands forward in front of you to help you do this. Once you're lying on your side, you'll put your arm or your hand that's on the top, and you'll put it in front of you on the bed. And you'll also move your feet towards the edge of the bed. Once you do that, you'll push up from the bed with your arm as your legs come off the side of the bed in one movement so that you're sitting up. It's almost like a lever. When you do this, I want you to breathe in before you sit up and then breathe out as you're sitting up. We always want to exhale on exertion, okay? Once you're sitting up, you can wiggle your bottom to the edge of the bed, put your hands on either side of your bottom and push up from the bed to stand. Always bring your nose over your toes when you stand so your body weight is forward, and push up from the bed into standing. The reason we teach this technique, and we do teach this technique after a lot of different surgeries, is that it reduces the strain on your abdomen and on your wound. You're minimising the use of your abs, so therefore you're reducing the amount of pain that you'll be in when you sit up. When you're in hospital, I definitely want you to use those bed controls. They're there to help you, so don't be afraid to use them. But before you go home, I really want you to practice this technique so that you know what you're doing once you're home. And I guess if you need, you can ask the nurses or someone else for feedback to make sure that you're doing it right. Because once you're home, you'll be needing to do this many times during the night and during the day when your baby needs a feed or needs you and you need to get up. The other little tip I want to recommend is when you're in hospital, try and get out of bed on the same side of the bed as you would at home. This means that you're practicing exactly as you would at home. The other little tip, if you're able to do this log roll technique one-handed, You can brace a pillow or even a rolled up towel against your wound, which will provide you with some extra support. Okay, so the best sleeping position is lying down flat in bed. You can use pillows to make yourself more comfortable. For myself, I preferred to lie on my back after my C-sections, and I put a pillow under my knees, which reduced a little bit of strain on my wound, but also my back. Initially, after my C-section, especially my second one, I found that I had a really sore back, which surprised me. It makes sense though. The strain on my back muscles was because my abs weren't really working as well as normal because I'd had the surgery and my muscles had been moved apart so that they could get to my baby. So my back muscles were compensating for that. I also found that my muscles were getting quite fatigued. You know, you're lifting your baby, you're carrying your baby, you're holding them through a lot of the day. And also, if you think about it, your center of gravity has changed. You no longer have a baby in your belly. So the center of gravity that you had at the end of your pregnancy has suddenly moved back, which can affect your muscles and takes a little bit for your muscles to get used to that again. So anyway, a pillow under my knees helped me. And on the rare times that I did sleep on my side, and this was probably after a few days, I found that if I put a pillow between my knees, that really helped. The other thing, if you're lying on your back and you find that you've got swollen feet or legs after your C-section, which again is quite common in the first few days, you can elevate your legs on one or more pillows, which can help reduce the swelling. If you're breastfeeding and you can learn and master the art of breastfeeding lying down, this can be really beneficial because it provides your body with more rest while you are breastfeeding. I never got the hang of this, unfortunately, so I would always breastfeed my babies sitting up, supported by pillows behind my back, but if you can lie down, it's a really good idea. So the thing with this is, of course, I would definitely use a support person to help you actually move the baby before you get up. Now, why am I recommending that the best position for you to sleep is lying down? There are multiple reasons for this. Horizontal rest is best after C-section, and ideally, as well as sleeping on your back or on your side in bed overnight, it's a great idea to get periods of horizontal rest during the day. I realize in practicality, this can be a bit difficult when you've got an unpredictable schedule with a newborn and you're spending lots of time feeding your baby. But if you can structure your day to have a rest, perhaps after lunch, which a lot of hospitals do this anyway, that can really help to set up a routine to make sure that you're getting that downtime. So the reason that lying down helps is because it helps your abdominal muscles and your pelvic floor recover. Your pelvic floor has been put under strain during pregnancy. Yes, you did not give birth vaginally, but you had however many kilos of baby and placenta and fluid and everything else sitting on your pelvic floor for your pregnancy. So your pelvic floor has still been stretched and needs time to recover. By lying down, you can reduce the weight on your pelvic floor and help it recover quicker. Similar thing with your C-section wound. You are reducing gravity, so I guess you're reducing the amount of weight that's on your wound, which can help it heal. The other thing it can do, as I mentioned before, is help reduce swelling, especially if you've got swelling in your legs, because it gives you an opportunity to elevate those legs and keep them above the height of your heart. It also helps keep your wound in neutral. The risk, if you're spending a lot of time sitting up after your C-section, so if you're sleeping sitting up, you're feeding your baby, you're resting, watching TV, things like that, the wound isn't getting a chance to lie flat and straighten out, which of course it needs to be and is in this position when we're walking around and when we move. So we want it to be as flat as possible for a long period of time during the day so that it can heal properly and not heal in a tightened position, which can then mean you'll feel it's being stretched and pulled in the future. Other sleeping positions or ways of getting out of bed that I've seen a few different techniques recommended on Facebook groups and social media. So I wanted to go through some of those and give a bit more insight into the benefits and maybe the reasons why they're not the best options. One of the most frequent things that I see recommended is to sleep in a recliner chair. Yes, they're definitely comfortable. I don't have one of those in my house, so that's the thing. Of course, you might not have one available to you. And again, like I mentioned, you're likely not sleeping in a completely horizontal position, so your wound is not getting that chance to lie flat. Then you have the issue of getting out of the chair. If it's an electric recliner, that's amazing. If it's one of those recliners where the footrest comes up and you need to push it in manually with your feet, that's almost like a crunch and it's going to put strain on your ab muscles. So you'll find that really difficult after a C-section. So have a look at that before you use it, I guess. We really don't want you getting stuck in the chair. That would not be good. The other thing I see is recommending people to sleep propped up in bed. This could be with a wedge pillow or just a bunch of normal pillows behind your back. Again, similar thing, you're sitting up most of the day, which isn't the best. It can be comfortable, definitely, and it can make it easier to get out of bed because if you don't know about the log roll technique, you're already in pretty much a sitting position and you're not pulling yourself up as far. So you're not putting much strain on your abdomen. But I guess another risk of sleeping upright is the potential that you will fall asleep while holding your baby, which of course isn't safe. It's always better to safely co-sleep, so sleeping lying down in a safe way with your baby, than risk falling asleep in a sitting up position, whether that's in bed or on the couch or in an armchair. So I'll go into a little bit more about the safety of that soon. The other technique that I saw, which I actually thought was pretty ingenious, was to tie a sheet or the cord of a dressing gown or something like that to the end of the bed. So if the bed has, like a rail or the bar underneath the bed, tie it on there and use it like a rope to pull on to sit up. I think this is a good idea in theory, and it probably does help if you are already sleeping pretty much in a sitting position. But if you are lying down flat, this will still be using your ab muscles as you'll be bracing those. One last option is to have someone else help you with sitting up. And the risk of this is that your support person could actually hurt themselves, especially if we think about how many times you might need to get out of bed. During the first few days and weeks, when you're attending to your baby, they're waking very frequently. So your support person could potentially hurt themselves over time. Of course, in saying all this, you need to sleep, and sleep is definitely vital to recovery. So if you are lying down and you've tried this log roll technique, you've had your pain medication, and you're still really struggling, then you just need to sleep however works for you. And then as soon as you can, go back to sleep lying down in bed. I obviously don't recommend that you lie down and you struggle and therefore you're not getting up as frequently as you need to, or you're avoiding resting. I have to say that I was kind of in that boat after the birth of my first baby. When I was in hospital, I think it was the second night, my baby was waking really frequently and getting out of bed was not very comfortable, even with the bed controls. So I spent probably way too much time sitting up out of bed because I was just waiting for her to wake again. I was just avoiding that process of getting in and out of bed. So we don't want you to do that. For my second baby, I had much better technique and I learned from the first time and I knew the benefits of rest and prioritized that more. I also just want to touch on co-sleeping. So as I mentioned before, lying down with your baby in a safe way is always better than risking falling asleep when you're sitting up. I'll put a link in the show notes that goes over some strategies and things you need to be mindful of when you co-sleep that maximizes safety. Now, you might not want to co-sleep, and that's perfectly fine, and this was definitely me. I prefer not to, but I have at times for different reasons. Yeah, the fact is that the majority of parents, whether they intend to or not, do end up co-sleeping at some stage when their baby is small. I'd much rather you know how to do it safely and have already set up your environment in advance for it to be safe than for you to be desperate at like 3 a.m. in the morning when you haven't slept and you're really sleep deprived and you're so desperate for sleep that you just do it without much preparation and planning, and then potentially do it in an unsafe way. Planning your sleep environments in advance, ideally before birth, is really beneficial. So thinking about where you're going to sleep during the night. Are you going to sleep in that same place for naps during the day? Where is your baby going to sleep? Is your bed set up in a safe manner that you can co-sleep? If that happens, as I say, even if you don't plan to, it may happen, and it's best to be prepared. In another episode, I'll go more into planning in general for birth, but for now, I just wanted to make a note of planning for sleep. All right, I've got some homework for you. First, I want you to try this log roll technique. It's a great thing to do if you're still pregnant. It works really well if you've got a big belly. And then obviously you can keep doing that during your pregnancy, after your birth, and into your recovery as well. And the second thing, as I mentioned, check out the link in the show notes about safe co-sleeping and familiarize yourself with that. Make sure that your sleep environment meets those criteria and be aware of the things that you need to do with your baby as well to optimize their safety. Thanks so much for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe below. I want you to have an amazing fortnight, and I'll chat to you next time. Bye.